What's up guys, Dan back with another video. The best PC desktop you can buy today. You're going to be shocked at what I say, but I'll give you a clue. It's behind me. Alright guys, so if you haven't figured out what I was talking about just then, well, I am talking about this. Yes, this. This is the Mac Mini. And before people roll their eyes who haven't got to use this yet or read anything about it, this is the new M1 Mac Mini. It's Apple's own silicon. If you're looking at Apple products right now, you've got to have heard that Apple have dumped Intel, basically. Bet they're crying. And they've brought out their own Apple silicon, like an ARM chip, like you get in your iPhones and your iPads. Well, they now put them in the MacBook Air, the 13-inch MacBook Pro, but they've also done it with the Mac Mini. Let me tell you, this is the best value desktop computer you can buy, hands down, right now. Don't care whether it's Windows or Apple or whatever else. This is the one to go for. So this is the $699 M1 Mac Mini that I have here. It's gone back to the anodized aluminum color, the silver color. Don't do a space gray in this. Kind of, I was hoping they did, but whatever, you know. But wow, $699. The performance on this thing is wild. Let's get into it. So I had a 16-inch MacBook Pro, and I had no problems with it whatsoever. I just wasn't using it to the potential, let's say. Well, maybe not even the potential, but for the price that that thing cost, I was literally just editing videos on it, and it just sat there and didn't get used 80% of the week. So I thought, well, I'm going to get rid of it. And then Apple announced their own silicone, and they said that they had these new Mac Minis coming out that promised all these graphical upgrades and speed upgrades, and I was really skeptical. I know a lot of people were, because they were putting these 5 times faster, 6 times faster, whatever the cards were saying that were flying up on screen. They didn't tell you what it was actually faster than. They didn't say whether it was faster than the i3 Mac Mini or the i7 Mac Mini. They just didn't go into that. So I was a little skeptical, but when they said the price is $100 cheaper at $699, I really became intrigued. So I blindly went ahead and bought one. And let me tell you, there has been no looking back. The Mac Mini is fantastic. So why is it so fantastic? Well, I can use Final Cut Pro on this Mac Mini, just like I was using on the 16-inch MacBook Pro. I do all my filming in 1080p. I know a lot of people are saying, oh, move on to 4K, it's old-fashioned, but I think for what I do, 4K is not really needed. So I do everything in 1080p. It absolutely munches through 1080p footage. When it comes to rendering, exporting, it's just no problem. It's faster than the 16-inch MacBook Pro in Final Cut Pro. Even in 4K, I have done a couple of 4K videos, not published them. It's been more of a personal video stuff, but no problem. Put a couple of lines of 4K in there with effects and things like that. No issue. It absolutely blasts through it. The M1 chip is amazing. Now, at $699, you get 8 gig of unified RAM. I'm going to get back on that in a minute. And 256 gig SSD storage. So now everything's all on one chip. You get an 8-core CPU, so you get 4 high performance and 4 high efficiency cores. And that's what makes this thing so good. But then you also have the neural engine. It's just bananas what they've put into this small chip. Now, like I said, I just mentioned it only has 8 gig of RAM. And I've been seeing on the internet, a lot of people are going on like, oh my God, how can it only have 8 gig of RAM? That's just stupid. 8 gig of RAM is not enough. This isn't 8 gig of RAM in the same terms of what you would put in your PC. It's unified. It's there. It's directly accessed. It's not having to swap information or anything like that. It's there. Directly communicates. It's a lot faster than the PC equivalent of something with 8 gig of RAM or their Intel equivalent with 8 gig of RAM. Doesn't work the same. I know a lot of people have been worried about that. Don't worry about it. The 8 gig of RAM is just fine. I can understand if you did go with 16 gigabytes of RAM just for future proofing, but trust me, like I say, I can run Final Cut Pro no problem. I'm video editing and things like that. 8 gig RAM is perfectly fine. So if you think you can save money by doing that, then fair enough, do that. Now, storage is another question. Should you go with the 512? It all depends on you. Now, I use my Mac Mini basically as an editing machine, and it's also used as a Disney Plus machine, an Apple TV, because I have a little boy who absolutely loves to sit in this room when I'm playing Xbox and watch Moana.
You're welcome.
Moana, yeah. And this thing just, no problem. It doesn't get hot. It has a fan inside this thing, but you cannot hear it. All right. I can hear. I have a Godox light right here, and even now I can hear the fan in that. When that's exporting its media from video editing, it's silent. I just don't hear it. Now, if I was to get up close and put it next to my ear, get right down in there, I'd probably be able to hear something. But I don't. It's really, really quiet. And for me, it's the computer to get. It's the 699 Mac Mini M1 is, if you're looking for a desktop experience right now where apps are going to open almost instantly, anything that's been modified to work with the M1 chip just works great. So like all your Apple apps are like that, work fantastic. But you also have the bonus of iPad apps and iPhone apps are also working on this. So say you're into video editing and you didn't want to go out and spend X amount on an iPad Pro. This is cheaper than an iPad Pro, but you can then, if you don't want to spend $299 on software, you can spend the $20-30 on LumaFusion, which is a really good iPad editor. This thing tears it up. LumaFusion works great on it. It's been no issue whatsoever. It's just fantastic. So if you're looking at editing on a budget, but don't want to go with a tablet, you're going to love this. Other things like my Soundcore app. I can use my Soundcore app on the Mac Mini, the same one that I work on the iPhone and the iPad, and I can use all their settings to listen to my earbuds when I'm going through my editing or listening to music. It's just a really good deal. Regular apps, Facebook, blah, blah, Twitter, they just all open like that. They're just instantly there. I can't say it enough how good this is. And if it's not something that's been modified to work with the M1 chip, the Mac Mini will download Rosetta 2. And every time you open it, the first time you open it, it'll recompiles it basically to work with the M1. Once it's done that the first time, whenever you open it again, you don't have to have that. And things run fine on it. More than fine. They run just as good as what they would do on their Intel counterpart, if not a little bit quicker in some circumstances. Photoshop is not a problem on this. It's not made for the M1, but once it's been recompiled in Rosetta 2, it's not an issue. You're not going to worry about it. This is the everything computer. I've been on Windows for years, and the only reason I went to Mac was because of Final Cut Pro. I did move over to DaVinci for a little while, and a Windows PC, which it was fine. It was great. But now you can get this package at $699. You don't need to. $699 gives you monstrous speed. It's so fast. I know it's hard to believe, but it's just so quick. Blows my mind how quick it is. It's cheap at $699. It can run everything. It's silent. It's got the Mac Mini form factor, which to me, I really like it. I know a lot of people are moaning, oh, it's not changed in years. It doesn't need to change. It's a tiny desktop. It's got decent I/O on the back, decent ports, 2 Thunderbolt 3 USB-C ports. It's got 2 USB-A ports, HDMI. It's got a network cable input. But then you can get the dock. I've just done a video. I'll put it in the link here, down in the description. But I've just done a video where there's a dock that can connect to the Mac Mini, and it takes up one of the USB-C ports, but gives you that USB-C port back, and then gives you more USB-A type ports, 3.5mm headphone jack, micro SD card, and an SD card reader. So you can have a really good system for not a lot of money. Now, don't get me wrong, I understand you've got to go out and buy a monitor, keyboard and mouse, but if you're coming from an older desktop PC setup, you might already have those. I already had them. I have the 32-inch LG monitor out back, and I've just bought a keyboard that I'm going to be doing a video on that looks like a retro typewriter. Mechanical keyboard is very good. You'll see that soon. But yeah, it's fantastic. I totally did not expect to be able to say to anyone, Apple have released the biggest bargain in desktop computing in years. They have just changed the scene altogether. Intel need to be worried. Microsoft need to be worried because they're not competing the same way with the ARM chip in the Surface Pro X. It's nowhere near like the M1 chip from Apple. They are blowing the scene away, but blowing the scene away and offering good value. So yeah, just wanted to let you know, the M1 Mac Mini, go ahead. Don't worry about the $699, oh, it's only got 8 gig of RAM. $699 is an absolute steal for this. Alright guys, I will catch you in the next one. Laters.